Yesterday, we had the emergency live stream for the First Ascendant. There were some things said that weren't really super substantial, but there were a couple reveals and things like that that are worth talking about. So today, we're going to recap that specific stream here. And if you have any questions or comments for me, you'll find me live every single day on twitch.tv/drybear. I'll see you there. So this whole broadcast was in response to the Nexon CEO telling the shareholders that the First Ascendant has retention problems. The words that were used, at least in translation, were actually that it has no staying power, which what he means is that the game doesn't retain its players very well. Also mentioned one of the DNF games, the Dungeon Fighter games as well, as part of that whole effort. So the emergency broadcast for the TFD devs was in response to the community saying, oh God, if Nexon is saying it has no future, does that mean the game is dying? And they rushed out to say, no, we're not hitting end of service. We're still on course. And they kind of reiterated some of the stuff they've been working on. First, let's go through the most interesting things of the broadcast, which is going to be the new reveals. The first one is going to be Raven, the upcoming descendant. They mentioned a few things during this broadcast. Firstly, that Raven is the next descendant, and they have a very basic concept here. So you can see that she kind of has this whole like goth thing going on with like the cut bangs, the long hair, dark Raven black hair for the character named Raven. She's got like some, you know, like Van Helsing style, more medieval adventurer style motifs here with the armor, lots of chains and black whips and things like that. This cool like gun, which, you know, sometimes they will concept in weapons into the hand that isn't related to the character. They just want to see what the character would look like holding something. But it does seem like this isn't just a weapon, that there's something else going on here. Maybe this is her unique weapon. They have some shadow elements coming out of this. Like maybe it's like Eminence and Shadow kind of vibe where she can create shadows and alter weapons. Maybe she's a gun descendant, we'll have to see. Then she's got this like office siren look down here, and then like a lot of chains and buckles and leather and, you know, more like gothic medieval kind of vibe to it as well. So this is the character for Raven, and they also confirmed that after Raven, they're going to be doing another ultimate, but they also did confirm that the next ultimate after Raven is going to be Ultimate Haley as well. So Ultimate Haley is confirmed to have been at least started in the concept phase. We don't know how far along she is, but they are working on Ultimate Haley. Next, they highlighted Ultimate Esiemo, and I think he looks awesome. I actually do love it when they do the male descendants on Ultimate, because usually they will go with like a traditional sci-fi kind of vibe, like armor and intentionality to what they do. Like a lot of the male descendants actually have functional gear and functional weapons and functional armor, and their look looks like it fits their function rather than it being more about, you know, the soft flesh that's underneath the armor in this case. So I think this fits Esiemo really well. A lot of explosions going on. They even did this key art here, which is pretty cool. You can see him holding the explosive there. He's got this cool helmet with like an Ultraman kind of thing coming off the top here. So Ult Esiemo is on the way as well. So we'll be getting Raven as well as Ult Esiemo. Though with this one looks like rendered and also 3D. So this one might be coming before Raven, considering Raven was a concept and this one seems to be fully created. So I'm guessing Ult Esiemo is probably on the way. If not in the next 2 patches, it might be at the start of season 4, depending on when that actually is. But Ult Esiemo is pretty close, you would imagine. So we follow this one here. This was the roadmap they had shown a little bit earlier. So we're kind of through February, and then they currently have, so this is kind of weird. They did like a 2026 roadmap, which shows May and summer. And then we also have a Q1 roadmap that goes through April as well, so into the start of Q2. So we have this, obviously all of this is done here, and you can see in May is when they're doing the full launch of the Onslaught mode, and this is also when Ult Esiemo comes out. So next month we're getting Ult Esiemo, we're getting a new Void Vessel dungeon, a rework on the core gameplay, as well as a VIB renewal on the difficulty there, and the full version of the Onslaught mode. But if we jump over to the closer one, which is February, March, and April, you can see in April on the 16th, so just under 2 weeks now, we're getting the Onslaught mode beta. So that's going to be the first version of the Onslaught mode, and then the full release of the Onslaught mode is next month in May, and then obviously we're getting the monthly balance for Viessa and Nez Transcendent module, and then some reworks too, like Mutant Cell and stuff like that, and then a Storm Hanger. So nothing too crazy besides the Onslaught mode in this setup here, and hopefully the balance for Viessa goes well. Now they did show off the Onslaught mode image here, which you can see is Galay, Ultimate Bunny, Serena in her Horde Onslaught outfit. This is her battle gear. She went to the ballroom / cocktail dress Taylor and said, hey, I'm about to hot drop into a zone full of thousands of Vulgus and Colossi, and I need an outfit that really stings. And so this is what she went with. And then we have Ult Ajax just mogging on the side here. They did not show any gameplay for the Onslaught mode, even though it's supposed to be coming out in under 2 weeks here for the beta, but they talked about it a little bit. So what they mentioned for the Onslaught mode in that regard is it will be, at least of what they mentioned yesterday, a 10-round experience, kind of like we're getting with the special operations, which have those rounds there. And they said that every 3 rounds, you will change locations to a new zone, and then at the very end, you will fight a Colossus, which makes it seem like it's less of a horde mode in my mind. We'll just have to see how it turns out. I think we all thought the Onslaught mode was going to be an endless mode or a survival mode or something, but the fact that it has 10 rounds, every 3 rounds you swap and then you reach a final boss and finish makes it seem like it's more like a special operation than a true survival mode. And they also showed this turret here and talked about how you will be able to man one of these turrets and use it as part of the Onslaught mode. Now, this could mean a lot of things. Based on the way this is designed, it seems like this is in emplacement, which means that it's not going to move. You're not going to pick it up and carry it. As far as I can tell, just based on this, it looks like this is meant to stay in place. So you will be able to get on this turret and use it during the Onslaught mode. One thing I have to wonder about this is usually when they do like items or things that you can use in combat, they tend to be relatively weak compared to the actual characters. So like when you're picking up the rocket launchers that you get for free in Axion Plains, those are pretty much pale in comparison to any other damage output you could use. And they also have a pretty limited ammo pool as well. Same thing for the widespread like shotgun laser beam things you get in Sigma Sector. Pretty short-lived and not very strong compared to everything else. So hopefully, if it's going to be an Onslaught mode with lots of enemies or really strong enemies like a Colossus, maybe it's going to be more like a Monster Hunter raid where you have to use like the encampments and emplacements to be able to deal damage to the big monster. Hopefully it's like that. Again, they didn't really show us any gameplay. They just showed this 3D render of the turret and said that you'll be able to use it as part of the 10-round wave for Onslaught. But let me know what you think about the Onslaught mode down below. We're not too far out from it. I mean, it's under 2 weeks. On April 16th, we'll be able to see it. And hopefully next week, when they do the dev live for the April 16th patch, we'll be able to see some actual gameplay of the Onslaught mode being on screen, and we can kind of get a taste for it. But let me know what you think about Onslaught mode. Is something you're excited about? Are you concerned about it? Is something that you're looking forward to? Why or why not? Drop that down below. Now from there, we can talk about everything else that was said. They didn't show anything else on screen. It was just kind of them talking about it. So they mentioned that their focus right now in the short term is still on what they call completing the game, which is reestablishing the core loops and improving them. This is still on the roadmap for the summer as well, of them looking at the core gameplay of unlocking things, doing dailies, doing weeklies, and what that looks like for them, polishing the accessibility of things in the game, improving the new player experience. So they still are kind of focused on making the core game better with this. We did do a kind of summit with several content creators last night going over this and talking about how the reworking and rebalancing is good, but it's not really bringing any new players in. It's not really super interesting or super exciting, and we'll have to see if they can find a way to add new interesting stuff into it and if these suggestions are going to hit the marks. We do have the Onslaught mode, but they did also verbally mention something, as they do in the TFD streams. For whatever reason, they like to mention something important and then quickly move on from it. But they did briefly mention in like a one-sentence thing that they are working on a new mode where the player plays as a Colossus, and then they just stopped talking and moved on. So the idea of the player playing as a Colossus is kind of interesting. Does it mean that it's just going to be you walking around as Wallcrasher, stomping on things and playing as it? Does it mean that it's going to be like an asymmetrical thing of like player Colossus versus regular players as Descendants? What does that look like? Is it going to be more of like a mech battle thing where you're walking around as a dead bride or whatever, throwing icicles at things? We'll have to see what that actually means. The fact that they just lightly mentioned it, it's not on the roadmap, and they had no details means this is probably not really being actively worked on right now. Just an idea they threw out there as part of it. Maybe they have a concept for it as well, but it doesn't seem like this is an active development. So we'll have to see what that actually looks like when it comes to fruition, if it comes to fruition. Now, let's talk a little bit about Season 4, which is on the horizon as well. They it said they're going to be working on a mega dungeon or an infiltration operation for it that they think is going to be pretty unique. The fact that they said infiltration operation on it and said it's going to be new, I have to wonder how new it's actually going to be. It could end up being really, really fun and interesting when they do mega dungeon, but we've seen mega dungeons before, which really just was a slightly larger dungeon than the ones we've already seen and really didn't have a whole lot added to it comparatively. But we can hold out hope that the mega dungeon, the super infiltration operation they're working on for season 4 is going to be wild. And we also know that they are working on ancestor level weapons, the transcendent weapons. So those weapons, I think they did mention that it was going to be a mix of weapons, probably existing weapons at a higher tier, like we have the ultimate level weapons now. We have to wonder, you know, when we get transcendent ancestor weapons, what does that mean for characters like Glay or Serena? How strong does it actually become? And what does that look like for weapon descendants in general? Maybe this is them trying to keep weapon descendants being a big part of the game by adding bigger weapons that you can farm. It would be a way for them to get us to refarm all the old weapons as well at a higher tier through new activities and things like that. But we'll have to see. Keep an eye out for the ancestor weapons. We know the ancestor modules had a massive impact on the power of the characters. Getting a really well-rolled ancestor module can really hyperscale a character into absurdity in the First Ascendant, and ancestor weapons could end up being in the same camp as well. They also mentioned that they're going to be looking at more buffs. They didn't really go into details on too much. They're going to be looking at least in the short term, buffing the synchronization value for Sharon individually, and then a bunch of other characters as well. They might be messing around with the sync values on the ancestor modules, and they're going to be continuing the buffs as well as that. But that is where we're at with the live stream. It was very much a, don't worry, we're not going into service. We're not shutting the game down. We're still working on everything. Our roadmap stays the same. They're working on the Onslaught mode. We're gonna have a new dev launch or a new dev stream next week, talking about the April 16th launch with the Onslaught beta, the Viessa rework, which I'm very nervous about after what happened with Sharon, that sort of thing. And they talk about like they're continuing to work on the core game and add new stuff to it as well. So let me know what you think about this, how you feel about their response to the feedback, how you feel about the game overall down below in the comments. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.